is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fresh Finance Podcast. My name is Thomas Elms. I have my co-host here, Kyle Ryan, and today we're going to talk about active income and passive income. And the title of today's episode is Passive Income Requires Active Planning. And I think it's a really important conversation to have in today's day and age where people are just really becoming obsessed with the idea of passive income to a point where they can pursue something passively but receive the income that allows them to live the lifestyle that they want. And, Kyle and I have gotten the opportunity to talk about this a lot offline, but we thought it was an important episode because we think in this age of social media, this age of the financial gurus out here, real estate, Amazon drop shipping, all of these different things, that it's really important to make sure that you're still honing in the idea of active income, because in all reality, in order to create that passive income stream, a lot of active work needs to come into it. And, Kyle, one of the things that I wanted to lead into this is an idea that, when you're looking at active and passive income, the way that I look at that is something that you're good at versus something that you're passionate about. And what I think a lot of people are doing right now is they're discounting what they're good at and they're only steering their motivations into what they're passionate about. And a lot of the passionate things that people are about, at least any conversations that I've had with people, is they're typically lower income producing types of work, right? It's a passion project. We'll throw that in quotes. And one of the things that I always tell people is focus on what you're good at as an income stream to create an opportunity for you to have the assets built up to then cater to what you're passionate about. I kind of want to get your take on that, because when I look at it, as a former baseball player, things of that nature, what I'm truly passionate about is I'd love to be a baseball coach. But baseball coaches, unless you're at the top rungs of, college baseball or professional baseball, you're not really going to get paid that well. But I'm also really good at financial planning. Now, am I also very passionate about financial planning? Absolutely. But I'm trying to use financial planning to build the life that I want to have in order to also pursue kind of that baseball part of my passion. And I just kind of wanted to get your take on where you're at on the conversation.
Yeah, as you said, active income is something you're good at. Ultimately how I look at active income is it's a means to an end. You could really enjoy what you're doing, but your passion lies in your hobbies, which are typically out of your 9 to 5 work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you mentioned baseball. I think of golf. I love to golf. I'm very passionate about it. Could I make an income from it? No, I'm not very good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So just because you're very passionate about something and you want to, it doesn't mean you should not spend a lot of time doing it. Do what makes you happy at the end of the day, but understand what income you need to meet your cost of living, how much you need at the end of each month. That's why I said it's a means to an end. I love my job. I feel passion for my job, but at the end of the day, if I could spend all day golfing, I'd do it. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to balance how much time you spend at what you're good at with your active income job so that you can save to make more time for your passive passions later in life.
Yeah. And sometimes that comes from an investing standpoint too, because I think passive income is a very investment related term, hinting at the ideas of rental real estate, dividend income from an investment portfolio, whatever it may be. A lot of people just have this, I wouldn't call it a delusion, but this misperception of how easy it is to create these things. And when in reality, it actually is not easy. It requires a lot of work, requires a lot of upfront capital and savings in order to create these opportunities, and outside of the whole crypto boom, which we won't talk about any of that, there are very few opportunities where you can take a small amount of capital and create a passive lifestyle that you never have to work again, right? And just kind of understanding that that's the reality. But there's also some benefits to that too. I think from a psychological perspective is the idea of building something that will then provide that income stream for you. I think it's super important, but it also kind of reflects onto the retirement side of things, because I think that so many people in today's day and age are trying to build wealth in order to just never have to do anything ever again. And I think that the idea of that is very honeymoon phase of retirement, in my opinion, at least in the situations that I've seen, is maybe that's great for the first year. But once that first year ends, you've kind of done, the fun things that you wanted to do. And I know there's endless places to travel, things of that nature, but from a mental capacity standpoint and from a physical, social, emotional standpoint, having an active passion or an active job that you're pursuing is incredibly important for the just the overall health of who you are. And I think that that's becoming very discounted in today's day and age of, just trying to create a passive income stream where you technically don't have to work anymore.
Yeah, no one wants to just sit around on their couch eating potatoes all day. That's why, we always tell, people we work with, retire with a plan, right? And I
Yep.
always like the cliche saying, when you rest, you rust, right?
Mhm.
Don't retire and just spend all day sitting on your couch watching TV, retire with a plan, retire doing things you like to do. You break it out into the three stages of retirement. First, you're in the go-go years. You're ready to travel. You're ready to see the grandkids. You're ready to go crossing, things off your bucket list. Then you get into the slow go years. Health might be declining. You might not just want to go out and do as much, so you're spending less. And then you get into the no-go years. So, being able to understand that you're going to go through these different phases of retirement, you're going to want to go crazy on what you want to do, which is absolutely what you worked for in the beginning. Follow your passion projects. But yeah, it's you just got to be on top of the plan. You got to actively plan for using this passive income for your passions in the future.
Yeah, and on like a additional note to that, kind of even hinting on the fire community as well, financial independent, retire early, you need to be even more disciplined with how you're planning that because your time horizon is just that much longer. Because
Yeah.
traditional retirement age in America is about 65. It's becoming 67 from a Social Security perspective. But if you're looking at maybe 50, that's an extra 15 years that you have to plan for,
Yeah.
right? And that kind of breaks down the fabrics of the traditional financial planning that most people do, right? You throw out the 4% rule, things of that nature. When you add more time to the retirement time horizon, that rule becomes less and less effective, right? And it requires more and more active planning, but it also requires more and more passive income as well.
Yeah.
That's something that you have to plan for. But kind of side note for myself and the people that I serve is from an athlete perspective, right? Their retirement time horizon is incredibly long, because they're normally, in their sport for 10, 15, maybe 20 years if you're a Hall of Famer. But you've got about 10 years to make money to a point where you can retire at 30. The thought process of that. Now, is there big money in sports? Absolutely. But do you even want to be in a phase where you're retired for that long? I mean, that's if your expectancy is 90, that's 60 years of retirement. Can you sustain that? You know,
And
there's a
yeah,
good,
you might
good
like
case to say
better,
yes, maybe no.
and you might see it, better on, but especially from the athlete perspective, even from a business owner who sold it early and then trying to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
Typically, they find other ways to use their brand, use their image, their likeness to go on and create more money. Typically,
Yeah.
you'll see sponsor deals from athletes. You'll see new business ventures from someone, a really successful business owner, like, what, I don't want to just sit around. Everyone wants to sit on the beach all day, but you can only sit around so much before human nature jumps up and bites you and says do something.
Yeah.
Ultimately everyone needs to have a passion and a purpose in life. Passions lead to purpose,
Yeah.
right? So having a healthy passion to pursue is ultimately what's going to keep your body clock going.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're gonna rest, you're gonna rust, and
Yeah.
neither of us
And
wants to do
and
that.
the way that I look at it for myself is I can go on vacation for maybe 10 days. I cannot be on vacation for longer than that, or else I just go crazy. But I think that's an important, thing to distinguish is like, I can't be on vacation for more than 10 days. How am I going to be retired for 20 years, you
Yeah.
know, in that stance? And I think there's, schools of thought here. And there are some people who, right now they could go take a 2 month trip or something like that. That's not me. But you just kind of have to figure out who you are. And on the baseball side, business owner side, I do see a very common direction as far as where that's moving towards. Is they're either moving into a secondary venture And for athletes, kind of one of the hot ones right now is a lot of sports commentating, broadcasting, things of that nature, because I think that we're looking from a media perspective more and more into athletes and their lives and what their takes and perspectives are on things, especially from podcast perspective, things of that nature. But it's like they've realized they're good at something and they've found value and meaning in that. They sell it. And yes, they've created the wealth to retire, but mentally and psychologically, they want to pursue that opportunity to do it again. And I think that's a very important thing to try and build from a mental perspective is you want to build and then take the fruits of that labor, to continuously build more onto what you're passionate about.
Yeah. And a slight pivot from that, from relatively the same point, I've heard of experiences with, people who go into nursing home facilities, right? As opposed to receiving at-home healthcare. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference there is they have, they have whatever reputation you have for them, but there are studies out there that show that people become a lot more cognitively advanced once they go into a nursing home facility, because one, you have a set amount of things that you have to do during the day. You have a schedule, you have 3 meals being fed to you, you have a community around you. So it's one small example of it, but you have to have people around you. You have to have passion. You have to have things that fill up your day, especially when you get into retirement. If it's retirement early, great, continue your passion while you're still healthy enough to do so. Yeah. But you have to be able to work on that actively. You can't just fall into passive income. No one just falls into passive income, right? Yeah. You want 80 grand a year to live on for your cost of living, and you want it all from dividends, right? Say it's producing 4%. You need to build a $2 million portfolio. That doesn't just happen overnight. That takes a lot of active planning to go into that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just overall trying to build a life that will stimulate you in all the right ways, but will also keep you healthy. I think that's a really, it can be very helpful to consider how you're doing your financial planning, but also how you're viewing what you're passionate about, what you're good at, the things that you're incorporating into your life. It's almost like a life coach conversation to a degree. But it's like, how are we maximizing your situation to where we can create as much cognitive, social, financial, increase in value in your life as you can? Because, I would say that the majority of people our age too are looking for something that will allow them to pursue their passions as much as possible. But one of the things I think we're not necessarily doing a good enough job as, from a generational perspective, this is, again, kind of a generalization, is we're kind of not taking in what we're good at, right? We're only focused on what we like to do, and we won't really do anything else. And I think that really hinders the opportunity for those passions to be pursued, from a monetary perspective.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity in exploring what you're good at. Of course, you want to continue to pursue your passion, but the bill's got to get paid at the end of the day. And usually what a lot of people feel passionate about, whether it's sports, whatever it is, you usually have to be toward the best in the world at it, because a lot of people enjoy what you're enjoying, unless it's something niche, you have to be really committed to it. Therefore, you have to have a side project just in case, you have to have something on the side that's more active, that's more consistent. There's a lot to be said about a paycheck coming every 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really all I had for this one. I this is just kind of a hot topic that, you and I had been having conversations about, and I just wanted to put that out there. I think it's just something really important and refreshing to consider when you're in the mode of what do I want to do with my life, but also what do I want my life to look like when, I've transitioned away from maybe that active income stream, and trying to, I would say, almost like get away from that traditional retirement idea of, hey, I'm going to walk away with this lump sum and I'm going to retire and, go to the beach every day. I'm going to try and make something more of my life. I think that's what the true value is.
Yeah. I think you wrapped it up really well.
Perfect. All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you to everybody watching, listening, doing a little bit of both, and looking forward to next episode.